Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for attending our national webcast today. This is Rebecca Shi. I'm the director of the American Business Immigration Coalition. We'll just give it a couple more minutes. I see that we have nearly 40 attendees and our press members joining us today. So we'll just give it another minute or so before we get started. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Great. Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Rebecca Shi. I am with the American Business Immigration Coalition. We'll get started in about a minute. I see that we have over 50 people now joining our webcast, including our members of the press. So thank you so much for attending, and we'll get started in about 30 seconds. Great, let's get started. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our National Press Conference with business leaders, Republican donors, and US citizens from battleground states who are denied stimulus release because of who they married. My name is Rebecca Shi. I'm the director of the American Business Immigration Coalition, and we're the host of today's press conference. At ABIC, our mission is federal immigration reform to grow the economy and keep families together. I am an immigrant from China. I grew up in a mixed status family. My father and me are US citizens, and my mother was undocumented. It was a struggle, but nothing like mixed status families you will hear today. Why? Because we did not live through a global pandemic. The extreme dysfunction in Washington is leaving US citizens out. Nobody is willing to come to meet in the middle for the good of the nation. There's talks about shutting down government. President wants to give something to the farmers. The Democrats say no. The Democrats want to take care of cities and states. The Republicans say no. Everyone wants something, but not willing to come to a compromise is a reason this is not moving forward. The unwillingness of two sides to come together is not only preventing a stimulus, but also might shut down the government. We at ABIC just want to make sure that average citizens can get the support they need to get through this crisis. Today, you will hear from business leaders, Republican donors, and US citizens, urging both sides to come to the table for the good of the nation on this issue and others like immigration reform. A very quick acknowledgement and housekeeping. We're grateful for our speakers today, especially from our mixed status families, United members, over 15,000 US citizens across the country, Kathy Burke Carvajal and Juan Carlos Cerda for putting together this press conference. For our members of the press, I see we have nearly 70 folks on the call, including our members of press. Thank you so much. For the members of the press, please go to the Q&A section. You can insert your name, your media outlet, and your questions. First, we will hear from US citizen stories in English and then in Spanish. You can insert your question at any time for the members of press. Again, just your name and your media outlet. First, I'm honored to introduce our first speaker, our ABIC co-chair, Al Cardenas, who is a partner at Squire Batten and Boggs. He is a CNN and Meet the Press commentator and the former chairman of the Florida Republican Party. Please welcome Chairman Cardenas to share some remarks.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Becca. At this point, there are few things, in my opinion, that are significant as making sure that every U.S. citizen in the United States receives equal consideration and treatment across the board. That's part of our Constitution framework. That's part of what makes us citizens and why it's so valued. What's shocking about this conversation and having to have this conversation is that, in my opinion, there hasn't been as significant a violation of U.S. citizens' rights under our Constitution as we did during World War II and the incarceration of Japanese, primarily, U.S. citizens at that time. Here we are, 80 years later, and we're facing another constitutional another constitutional violation, in my opinion, and that involves U.S. citizens. Imagine this: if you're a U.S. citizen living with an immigrant and not getting married, you would have received in the first round of stimulus assistance enough money to make sure there's a roof over your head and food on your table. But because you married that immigrant, which is something that all of us strive to have done in America, strong families, you were then deprived to have that same amount of money available to you and your family. In other words, it penalized you for being married, falling in love with an immigrant. Now, we're not talking about giving the immigrant benefits. We're talking about the U.S. citizen who lives here legally as a U.S. citizen, paying their taxes and living under the guidelines of our country, deprived of this, penalized for having married an immigrant. That's something that I don't recall we've ever done. Well, that's what exactly was done with the first bill that provided our citizens with some relief from the pandemic and the economic crisis that followed. Now we have a second round. The House of Representatives already passed on this second round a stimulus relief bill, which included U.S. citizens married to immigrants to receive the same benefits every other U.S. citizen receives. Fortunately, in the Senate, there was an amendment filed by Senators Rubio and Tillis that called the CARES Act that provides the same amount, the same relief that's in the House bill. The Senate, of course, has not taken up its bill. The Problem Solvers Caucus, a group that was formed by equal numbers pretty much of Republicans and Democrats, have come up with a proposal which hopefully can be acceptable to both sides as a compromise that can be passed in the next few weeks and make sure that there's a second stimulus that can carry our citizens through the end of the year. Purpose for this call is to urge U.S. Senate to make sure the CARES Act amendment is incorporated in the stimulus bill. We have some good news, but not enough good news. There are a number of U.S. senators who have said that they're willing to support the CARES Act, which has been proposed incidentally by two Republican U.S. senators. And we need two things. We need a few more Republican senators to agree to support it. But more importantly, we need Mitch McConnell to bring it to the floor for a vote. And then, of course, we need the Senate, the House to compromise on a stimulus package. This is critical. And frankly, it's not just about the stimulus package. It's about the right of U.S. citizens under the law to have equal treatment across the board and not be penalized in a punitive way because of who they fall in love with. And so I hope all of you listening to this call, I know there are many issues facing us in this 40 or so days ahead of a presidential election. But it seems to me that this is of such critical constitutional importance and just a sense of fairness across the board that we urge all of you, and especially the press, to make sure that this topic remains on top of the news cycle and that eventually this stimulus package is passed within the next few days or weeks. Thank you. Thanks, Rebecca.
Great. Thank you so much for your remarks, Chairman Cardenas. Next, I am honored to welcome Mr. Woody Hunt, who is the chairman and CEO of Hunt Companies, headquartered in El Paso, Texas. Mr. Hunt is also a co-chair of ABEC. Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Becca. My name is Woody Hunt, and as Becca said, I'm chairman of Hunt Companies. Today, Hunt Companies is a real estate development and holding company with a national and international profile. A lot has changed since our company was first started in 1947. Our company is still based where we started in El Paso, Texas. We're still a family-run business. We still believe that we have a responsibility to help our community and our state when hard times come. And right now is a hard time. The COVID-19 crisis hit. Congress saw that millions of people are about to be put out of work through no fault of their own. Our representatives acted quickly and passed the CARES Act to get cash to people who needed it to pay their bills, buy groceries, keep current with their rent. Those checks were lifelines, not just for individual families, but for entire communities. There's just one problem. And in Texas, my home state, it was a big problem. The CARES Act denied assistance As Al said, to any U.S. citizen who was married to an immigrant without a social security number, even immigrants who are in our country legally. To be clear, it is not that the foreign national couldn't get a stimulus check. No one in the family, children included, even if they're American citizens, could receive a payment. As a result, 1.7 million U.S. citizens were denied any financial relief from the CARES Act. Nearly 250,000 of those citizens live right here in Texas. As a Republican, I was deeply disappointed when I learned that this exclusion wasn't an oversight, but something that some Republicans insisted on. It's not a time for political grandstanding. Too many American families need financial assistance right now, and excluding them from COVID relief will slow and complicate our road to economic recovery. Stimulus checks for the 1.7 million U.S. citizens who were denied help in the spring would inject $2.9 billion into our national economy, $349 million into the Texas economy. Would provide financial assistance for individuals and communities in need and prevent families from losing their homes or going into debt. Two things that could have long-term economic consequences for economic recovery in Texas. It's time to think about our economic future, how we uplift the millions of tax-paying Americans who are still struggling because of this pandemic. So I'm relieved that Republicans, as Al said, Senators Rubio, Florida, and Tillis have introduced the American Citizen Coronavirus Relief Act to right this wrong. So far, at least 9 Republican senators, including Senator Cornyn from Texas, have signed on to the bill. In the House last week, the Problem Solvers Caucus included stimulus checks for mixed status families in their bipartisan proposal. Now we just need both chambers to vote on this issue. There are a lot of hard questions out there right now for our country. This isn't one of them. Denying U.S. citizens and their children essential relief during a pandemic is morally wrong and economically harmful. I urge our leaders in Congress to deliver a COVID relief package that lifts up American families who need help in these uncertain times. Thank you. And now I would like to pass the microphone to Kathy Carvajal, ABIC's Florida Director. Kathy.
Thank you so much, Woody, and thank you so much for joining us today. Right now, I would like to introduce Jesse Alarcon, who is with us today from Madison, Wisconsin. As many people know, Wisconsin is going to be one of those key battleground states in this year's elections, and everyone is looking to see what voters in Wisconsin are thinking. And I wanted to thank Jesse so much for being part of our news conference today. Go ahead, Jesse.
Hi, thanks, Kathy, for inviting me. And good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely, perfect.
Okay. My name is Jesse Alarcon, and I live in Madison, Wisconsin. My husband, Luis, is from Mexico. We've been together for 4 years. We live here in Madison with our 4 children, one of which is my son who has special needs and an IEP at school. Before COVID hit, my husband had a job with a hotel, doing hotel maintenance, landscaping, and snow removal. When the pandemic hit, my husband lost his job the day that everything shut down. Schools have resumed, but we're all virtual. This has forced me to take a leave of absence from my job. Currently, I'm only making 2/3 of my salary. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like there's an end in sight here in Wisconsin because the COVID numbers keep going up here in Madison and throughout Wisconsin. And at this point, I'm afraid if things don't open up, I'm going to lose my job. With my paycheck, we pay our mortgage, we pay our electric and our major utilities. With my husband's paycheck, we would pay for the cell phone, the Wi-Fi, and food. Right now, my husband is working odd jobs because if he doesn't bring home at least $400 a week, we don't have enough to pay the bills. Also, I can't apply for food stamps for myself and for my US-born children because that would negatively impact my husband's immigration case because we'd be considered a public charge. Because of this, we are getting our groceries from local food pantries. And we're at our wit's end. Sorry. I've been working and paying taxes since 1996. My husband and I file our taxes every year using his ITIN number. He doesn't have a social security number yet. My children and I were born in the United States. I never thought at a time like this that I'd be excluded, my family would be excluded. I love my husband, I love my family, I love my country. We would have received $2,700 for myself and my kids. We were counting on that money to help us pay bills. I know it's election year and that I'm in a very big swing state. And I know this because I'm being bombarded by ads, calls, and text messages from candidates every single day. I ask myself, if they want my vote, why are they discriminating against me and discriminating against my family? And why are they leaving us out? I want to call on Senator Ron Johnson to follow the example of the other Republican senators. Support this fix of the immoral exclusion of our families. We need Congress to get back to work. We need them to stop fighting. Pass another round of CARES Act that fixes this mess my family's in. Voters like me and mixed status families are counting on you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jesse. Thank you so much. And now I'm going to introduce Minerva Perez, who is joining us from South Carolina. Minerva, can you hear
Yes,
us?
I'm here. Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Thank you so much.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Minerva Perez. I live in Charleston, South Carolina, and like many American families, my family is struggling with the financial survive the COVID-19 pandemic. Unlike most others, my children and I have been denied the CARES Act stimulus check other American citizens were given to help them to get by during this difficult time. I was born in the Philippines, and my father was a U.S. veteran. I've been here in U.S. for whole my adult life. I'm an American citizen, and so are my two children. My husband and I have we've been together for 20 years. We file taxes together, and like other people that they pay taxes as well. But just because of his social security number, we've been denied the same checks the other citizens were given. I didn't expect my husband would receive the stimulus check, but I am shocked that my US born citizen and I, as a US citizen, have been treated so unfairly. The $2,200 we should have gotten would go a long way toward helping us buy the groceries, store clothes, and so much more. So I am pleading with my US Senators, Lindsey Graham and Tim Scott, to join many of their Republican colleagues and correct this injustice. My children and I are depending on you to make sure we get the same assistance as every other law-abiding, tax-paying American citizen. And as a mother and a voter, I will be paying attention to who is standing up for my family. Thank you.
Minerva, thank you so much for being with us today and for sharing. And just so folks know, Minerva is stepped out and took a break from work to do this from her car. So folks are really working and really struggling out there to fight for their families. And Minerva, we really thank you so much for taking the time and being with us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm now going to hand it over to Juan Carlos Cerda, who's the Texas Business Outreach Manager with ABEC. Thank you so much. Juan Carlos?
Thank you, Kathy. My name is Juan Carlos Cerda, and I am the Dallas-Fort Worth Business Outreach Manager for the Texas chapter of the American Business Immigration Coalition. My family is also a mixed status family, and it is truly a tragedy that U.S. citizens like Minerva are being penalized for whom they love. I would now like to introduce Patty Ramirez, a U.S. citizen from the largest battleground state in our country, who will share how the pandemic has affected her family. So I will now ask Patty to please unmute herself.
My name is Patty Ramirez, and I live in Atascosa, Texas. I am a U.S. citizen, and I have been married to my husband, who is from Mexico, for 5 years. We are blessed to have 2 kids together, a son who is 9 years old and a daughter who is 3 years old. My husband applied for a green card and has been waiting in Ciudad Juarez since November to get an immigration interview. He suffered from tuberculosis for several months, and I worked hard to provide him with treatment for 6 months so that he could be cured. Even though he was finally healed, the pandemic dashed our hopes because the American consulate in Mexico shut down and we haven't heard from them. I must provide for my husband in Juarez and for my own household as well. And my income from my billing job at a local hospital is simply not enough. I've had to ask money from my 2 daughters from a previous marriage, one who works for Taco Bell, and another who is unemployed. The pressure of providing for 2 households has been overwhelming and has taken a toll on my mental health, to the point that I have to visit a doctor to treat my anxiety and depression. I thought that a stimulus check from our government would alleviate my worries, but when I found out that I did not qualify for a payment, I felt like an outcast in my own country. Even though I've done everything that's required of me and followed all of the rules, I feel like a second-class citizen. That is not fair because I vote and I pay taxes. I'm thankful for that Senator John Cornyn is co-sponsoring the American Citizen Coronavirus Relief Act to help US citizens like me. The stimulus money could be a difference between making ends meet or piling on more credit card debt. I'm now asking Senator Ted Cruz of Texas to please co-sponsor this legislation so that we can better support American families like mine and survive one of the most difficult times of our lives. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patty, for your compelling testimony. It is not fair that tax-paying, voting citizens like you feel like they're being treated like second-class citizens. I am now going to introduce another US citizen from the state of Colorado. Her name is Michelle Leyva, and she will share how and why federal assistance is important for the economic well-being of her family. I will now ask Michelle to please unmute herself.
Hello, good morning. My name is Michelle Leyva Alonso, and I live in Denver, Colorado. I am a US citizen, and I have been married to my husband from Durango, Mexico for 17 beautiful years. Together we have 3 beautiful daughters, 17, 15, and 13. And before the pandemic, we did adopt 2 foster children. I am fortunate to have a job in customer service, but our family lost almost half of our income when my husband was furloughed from his plumbing job 2 months ago. And finding full-time job during the pandemic has been hard for him, and the money he makes from side jobs does not cover expenses for our 3 children and 2 foster children. We received rent and grocery assistance so we could support our foster kids, but this assistance ran out after a month. Although my husband became a legal resident in March and submitted our taxes on time, neither he nor I received a stimulus check. It was disheartening to see that some members of my family, like my siblings, received federal assistance, and I did not. I do not think that that's fair. My husband and I are taxpayers who try our very best to provide not only for our children, but our foster children who had, difficult home circumstances. Our dream is to one day own a home so that we can house all of our family. And no American should feel like they have been excluded by their own country. Which is why I will be voting in November, and why I will be asking Senator Cory Gardner to please co-sponsor the American Citizen Coronavirus Relief Act to help all mixed status families who were left out of the federal stimulus package. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for your very compelling story, and I will now pass it back to Kathy Bird Carvajal to close us out.
Thank you so much to everybody. We are getting a lot of comments in the chat from other mixed status families, and it just, goes to show that this is a much bigger problem, I think, than a lot of people anticipate that it is. Families are really hurting out there, and what we're going to do right now is we are going to make some space so that we can take some questions from the press. So if members of the press, if you have any questions, please type your questions into the Q&A, and we will call on you. We will be able to take those questions in the order that they come, and then you will be able to ask them live. So we don't have any questions yet, so we're going to wait for a little while. Do we have any other comments from our panelists? Okay, so one question that I have for the media is if people, if there's any media that would like to hear some testimonies in Spanish, please let us know by putting it in the Q&A. And we do have a couple of people who are prepared to share their stories in Spanish. Okay, so it looks like we've got a question. So, so we have a question from Mr. Hunt, which is, how do you think the SCOTUS fight will impact this issue? Becca, do you want to answer that?
Oh, I think that's a question from the press to Mr. Hunt.
Yes.
Oh.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you,
Yes.
Mr. Hunt.
Yes. Well, we were already challenged in getting the new COVID relief package, as everyone knows. I think it's a filter really by both parties on the November 3rd election on, whether, what do they want to support and when do they want to support it, which is very frustrating, for all those people that are being impacted by the lack of another extension of the relief. So certainly the Supreme Court just throws one more reason not to sit down and come to a conclusion with a compromise. The Problem Solvers Caucus, and for full disclosure, which is backed by a group called No Labels, which I'm a member of, laid out a very bipartisan middle ground proposal several days ago. A framework, it wasn't a bill, it was really a framework. And it's gotten some traction, but time is passing, and I'm afraid the Supreme Court fight is just another, will be another delay.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Hunt. There's another question from the press, and this is to any U.S. citizen from swing states. How does this issue impact your decision in November? So Jesse, Michelle, or Minerva, Patty, any of you?
I can answer as far as mixed status families. My family in particular, we're paying attention to the candidates that are paying attention to our families. We're paying attention to the ones who are talking to us to understand the issue, to find solutions. So as far as that goes, I'm still up in the air where my vote goes, because at this point, nobody stepped up to the plate to say, hey, we want these families included. So, bombard me with the ads, the text messages, but until I hear that my family is part of a solution that's being brought to the table, my vote's not going in that direction.
Great. Thank you so much, Jesse. I am gonna wait another minute to see if press have any other. Oh, there is an NPR question to Mr. Hunt. How optimistic are you that Congress will hear your argument around the stimulus checks?
I wouldn't say that I'm optimistic. I am an optimist by nature, and so I'm always hopeful that reasoned people will come together and see that something needs to be done sooner rather than later. But as I said earlier, the political, on the Democratic side, they see passing a bill will help the president because it will help stock market will go up. That'll help the president. On the Republican side, there's concerns that where our deficit has grown significantly and adding to our debt and a reluctance to spend. And so I'm hoping there's some middle ground where both are willing to step back and say that we need to do something now, rather than after the election or after a whole new presidency and so. But I'm very guarded as far as how successful this might be in the short run.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Marissa from NPR, Mr. Cardenas will follow up with you individually. He had to step away. So we also have a couple requests for stories just in Spanish from Texas and also from Univision. And so I will just close this out. Thank you so much for our attendees and members of the press. Please stay on if you'd like to hear our stories in Spanish. But if not, you're free to go. Thank you all so much, and we'll keep fighting to make sure that U.S. citizens and mixed status families are included. And thank you so much for our mixed status family groups across the country for joining us. So I will kick it over to Kathy and Juan Carlos to introduce our Spanish speakers. And then for Univision and the Texas Spanish news outlets, please stay on. We'll do our stories in Spanish now. Thank you all so much.
Okay, terrific. So now we can move into our Spanish testimonies. Juan Carlos, I think I'll actually hand it over to you since you helped to make that happen.
Muchas gracias, Katy. No es justo que muchos ciudadanos que votan y pagan impuestos sienten que son tratados como ciudadanos de segunda clase. Es una tragedia. Y ahorita vamos a escuchar de una ciudadana del estado de Texas, uno de los estados más grandes e importantes para esta elección. Ella se llama Patty Ramírez y ella va a compartir cómo la pandemia ha afectado a su familia. Entonces le voy a pedir a Patty Ramírez que por favor se quite de mudo y que comparta su historia. Patty.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Patty Ramírez y yo vivo en Atascosa, Texas. Soy ciudadana estadounidense y estoy casada con mi esposo que es de México desde hace 5 años. Tenemos la suerte de tener 2 hijos juntos, un hijo de 9 años y una hija de 3 años. Mi esposo solicitó una tarjeta verde y está esperando en Ciudad Juárez desde noviembre para obtener una entrevista de inmigración. Sufrió de tuberculosis durante varios meses y yo trabajé duro para darle tratamiento durante 6 meses para que pudiera curarse. A pesar de que finalmente se curó, la pandemia frustró nuestras esperanzas porque el consulado estadounidense en México cerró y no hemos tenido noticias de ellos. Debo mantener a mi esposo en Juárez y también a mi propio hogar, y mis ingresos de mi trabajo de facturación en un hospital local no son suficientes. Tuve que pedir dinero a mis 2 hijas de un matrimonio anterior, una que trabaja en Taco Bell y otra que está desempleada. La presión de mantener 2 hogares ha sido abrumadora y ha afectado mi salud mental, hasta el punto de que tengo que visitar a un médico para tratar mi ansiedad y depresión. Pensé que un cheque de estímulo de nuestro gobierno aliviaría mis preocupaciones, pero cuando descubrí que no calificaba para un pago, me sentí marginada en mi propio país. A pesar de que hice todo lo que se me pidió y seguí todas las reglas, me siento como una ciudadana de segunda clase. Eso no es justo porque yo voto y pago impuestos. Estoy agradecida con el senador John Cornyn, que está apoyando el American Citizen Coronavirus Relief Act para ayudar a ciudadanos estadounidenses como yo. El dinero del estímulo podría hacer la diferencia entre llegar a fin de mes o acumular más deudas en mi tarjeta de crédito. Ahora le pido al senador Ted Cruz de Texas que por favor apoye esta legislación para que podamos apoyar mejor a familias estadounidenses como la mía y sobrevivir a uno de los momentos más difíciles de nuestras vidas. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias por su historia muy impactante, Patty. Realmente es una tragedia que los ciudadanos y ciudadanas como usted están siendo penalizadas por casarse con la persona en que se aman. Y con eso voy a devolver el micrófono a mi compañera Katy.
Muchísimas gracias, Juan Carlos. Para decir un poquitico en español de la parte que hizo Rebeca en el comienzo, todos sabemos que esto es un año electoral, es un año en donde cada voto cuenta, particularmente en estados de alta contienda como Texas, como Colorado, como Wisconsin, como la Florida, como el sur, Carolina del Sur. Son estados que van a ser decididos por muy pocos votos y estos votantes quieren que se les escuche hoy, que se escuche que sus familias nunca recibieron el primer cheque de estímulo. Entonces, de las familias que están mal en este país, estas familias están peor. Y realmente están buscando que su gobierno, sus oficiales electos les escuchen, escuchen las necesidades de estas familias que todavía están pasando efectos devastadores de esta pandemia y que se merecen la igualdad, se merecen los mismos derechos que cualquier otro ciudadano de este país. Y dentro de esos están sus hijos, niños que son nacidos aquí. Entonces, estamos aquí por eso. Juan Carlos, ¿tenemos alguna otra historia que queremos resaltar en español?
Hasta ahorita el momento, Katy, solamente teníamos la historia de Patty.
Ok, perfecto. Bueno, como somos bien bilingües aquí, algo que vamos a hacer, vamos a volver al inglés y quiero darle la oportunidad a alguna gente que ha escrito en los comentarios si quieren compartir algo. In terms of the press conference, we're going to move back to English. We've got a lot of folks that have been putting comments into the chat. So if folks want to stay around, we want to give these folks a chance to make their voice heard. So we're gonna, let some folks speak if they want to share their story, make any comments. We're also gonna read some of the comments that we've seen in the chat because we want to make sure that everybody who has joined us today knows that you are being heard, that you matter to us and your family matters. And we're making sure that your stories are being heard, especially during this time of COVID and especially during this time that is an election time. Woody, if you want to go, that would be okay. And if you want to hang out, you're welcome to also. You're on mute.
Oh, Mr. Hunt, you're on mute. Maybe you have to unmute him, Kathy.
Oh, maybe I do. Oh, is that?
Or James? Kathy or James?
No, it's me. I'm clicking on unmute, but I think that Woody needs to accept to be unmuted.
Okay,
Sorry, Woody, we're having some issue with the technology.
Yeah. Basically, Mr. Hunt, if you like to stay, you're welcome to stay. I think some of the US citizens would just like to share more stories, and you're welcome to go. This is the end of our press conference. So thank you so much for being with us. Great. Okay, go ahead, Kathy.
Okie dokie. Let me see how we can do this. So we've got Bonnie, if you can raise your hand, I see that you want to share your story. If you can raise your hand, I think that I'll be able to allow you to talk.
There we go.
There we go, Woody.
Yeah, I'm back.
Thank you so much. Woody, we're trying to make it so that we can hear from a few other folks that, that we know that want to share that are on the line. So if you want to hang out, you're welcome to hear these stories. And if you have to go, you're welcome to go too. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I'll stay for a few minutes, then I have another appointment I have to move to.
Terrific.
Bonnie has raised her hand.
Oh, good. For some reason, I'm not. Okay, I think I know what's going on now. Okay, Bonnie, I am now going to allow you to talk, okay? Bonnie, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here. Can I hear me?
Thank you, yes.
Hi, my name is Bonnie and I'm from Wiley, Texas, near the DFW area. I've been married for 17 years. My husband helped me raise my first child. We actually made a beautiful business. It's a family-owned business. It's an entertainment business, which has helped us grow a lot here in the DFW. We have helped raise a lot of money for Children's Hospital. We have helped our community, and my husband has been able to raise money for the schools. He has an ITIN number, and I never expected for us to be discriminated the way we were. So it hurts that our country has done that. My husband is raising my oldest child, who is actually going to college and is going in the medical field. So just because he has an ITIN number does not mean he's not doing the things the proper way. We have been trying to get his statuses for a couple of years. Unfortunately, one of the lawyers here in Dallas, Texas, stole $7,000 from us. And so we had to get that money again and put in again for his statuses. It has put us in the hole after us being able to help our Dallas community. Now we're asking for help. And I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you so much for your courage and for joining us today and for sharing that story.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to pass it to Samantha Alonso. Samantha, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you, Samantha.
Hi, my name's Samantha Alonso. I live here in Virginia with my husband who has an ITIN number and my four children. I am an essential worker. Thankfully, I can still work. My husband, his hours have been cut due to the COVID-19. I was born and raised here, and when I found out that I didn't have the right to get the stimulus check like my sister did and my cousins, it was very hurtful because I don't understand why, just because who I'm married to, I don't have the equal rights to any other United States citizen. I'm sorry, I'm kind of nervous. I don't see anything in the government stating that just because I'm married to an I-10 holder, my rights as a citizen is less than anyone else. So this is something that needs to be worked on. And I am also in the process of getting my husband's papers. But with this broken immigration system, it's been very hard, and we spent a lot of money, and it feels like it's so far out, but I do have faith. But thank you very much for listening to my story.
Thank you so much, Alonzo. Thank you so much, Samantha.
Mm-hmm.
And now can you tell us what your name is, please?
My name is Maria Cosme Gutierrez.
Hi, Maria. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for adding me to this as well. So I gave birth in March, and this is when the whole thing went down. I was working, but unfortunately I had to leave for work to give birth. You know, I thought I was going to have it, you know, that way we could buy diapers. I have now three children. I am currently off of work on leave right now because I have strep, and I've been having strep since the 9th of this month. I had to get a loan for my car because it was really bad. It was shaking, so I had to put a lease down for another car. And my brother got it, my dad got it, and you know, I can't really ask them much for help. You know, they're the only family I have, but the matter of fact that we got left out and everybody else got it, it makes me feel like we don't even belong here. Like, why discriminate us when there are people who have it like really bad and they need it even?
I think, Maria, you went on mute for some reason. Oh,
I'm sorry about that.
Hear you again. Go ahead.
And it's not fair to us because of who we marry. And, you know, right now we're struggling, and we could have used that money to help with bills, and we're working on his papers to help pay the lawyer because we're getting loans from his boss to help us with it, and then we're going to have to pay him back eventually. And thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you so much for sharing your story, and we're definitely listening. And can you tell us what city and state you're calling from today?
I'm from Salisbury, North Carolina.
Oh, wow. That's incredibly important. We'll definitely follow up with you, Maria. Thank you so much, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. So let's see here. We've got a few more questions and comments. So I'm just going to go, if folks want to ask a question live, just raise your hand and I will call on you and unmute you. But, you know, there are so many comments in the chat right now from different families who are being impacted by this, you know, that are going through the same thing from all over our country. I want to thank everybody who's put these really encouraging messages in the chat for the families. I'm actually going to ask, can somebody go to the Facebook Live and see if we can read a couple of the messages that folks have pasted there? James, do you think you could do that?
Yeah, sure thing.
Thank you. But yeah, I mean, so, you know, would it be better if our spouses didn't pay taxes and pay into our government? It's true, families are being punished because they filed their taxes. They did the right thing. They filed their taxes with their spouse has an I-10 number. You know, they were basically punished for doing the right thing. So it definitely is not an encouraging situation.
Kathy, can I scoot in here real quick?
Absolutely. Who's this?
This is Jessie.
Oh, hey, Jessie. Yeah, thank you.
Hey, so one of the things that we've learned with the Mixed Status Families United page is this discrimination goes across every state. It's also international. It hit military veterans who are retired, who are married to people from overseas. This has hit. It's just amazing that people don't understand the multitude of different dynamics and different areas that this has affected. The swing states are super important, 100% for the votes, but our families live in all 50 states and throughout the entire world. We have people living overseas who didn't get help from the government they live in now, but they still file their taxes here because they're US citizens. They don't have to, but that's their dedication to the country. And then they get left out, they're stuck. We have families, we have a family where mom gave birth to her sixth child here in the United States. Her husband is sitting in Honduras since December. The consulate's closed. They got no money. She had her child by herself, went home to her 6 kids, and her husband's not here. What was she supposed to do? She's still by herself. So that's what we're trying to get the message across, that this isn't about undocumented. These are immigrants, these are families, they're US citizens who are following all the laws that we're supposed to, and we're being discriminated against and we're being left out. And it's military vets, it's doctors, it's lawyers, it's essential workers, it's moms who are just giving birth. Like, how does that even in anybody's mind sound right? It just doesn't. And that's what Mixed Status Families United is trying to get that message out.
Thank you so much, Jesse. Thank you so much. Anybody else? I see that anybody else wants to. I see Anastasia's on, and I definitely, Anastasia, I'm going to unmute you if you want to share something for a couple of minutes. So Anastasia, along with Christina, are the founders of the Mixed Status Families United group, and they're doing really, really powerful work, and we're very privileged to have them join us today. Anastasia, can you hear us?
Hi, I can. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So I just wanted to, first of all, thank you everybody for joining on. I've already cried multiple times just watching and listening to everybody. Something I really wanted to point out is that for me personally, the effects of not being able to be included have been tenfold. It's been much more than I thought originally. And coming from a background of domestic violence, my husband being the first one in 4 generations to break that cycle. And being very purposeful when I got married, his status was not important. He stepped into a role with my son, and he's good enough to adopt my son, but he's not good enough for his family to be treated as US citizens. Aside from that, I would like to, I know that Jesse talked about the veterans. I did not hear this, and I might have missed it, Jesse, so excuse me if I did. Active military that are married to ITIN holders did receive the stimulus. Veterans did not. I'm sorry, out of everything, for us to spit in the face of our veterans is disgusting. And this has got to change. Plain out and simple, this cannot be tolerated. This is so much more than even just all of us. We're talking about our veterans, people that have fought for our freedom to be able to even have these calls. People that have fought for the right for us to be even able to speak to each other on a Zoom call. And we're telling veterans that they don't matter. Veterans that are overseas, that met their spouses overseas, their spouses are paying taxes on money that they don't even legally have to pay so that they can try to migrate to this country one day eventually. They are doing it right. They have not broken any laws. There's no illegal entry. and they were left out of the stimulus. And they have fought blood, sweat, and tears. They have watched their brothers and sisters die next to them to fight for our freedom. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Anastasia. Anastasia, I don't know if folks know, but Anastasia is working on this day and night, organizing other people, bringing more folks on board, finding ways to lift this up to the media. The stories of these American families is so incredibly important. And Anastasia, I really just tip my hat to you for your leadership and the work that you've done. So the founder of the group, the one who started it all, is on the line, and it's Cristina Segundo Hernandez, who is joining us from Texas. Cristina, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Hi.
So much. Hi, Cristina.
How are you?
Thank you so much for joining us.
Awesome. Okay, so I just wanted to basically come on here and say my story really doesn't compare to half of the people on here. I mean, we've gotten through because we've still been able to work. And I know a lot of people, they've been out of work this entire time and have had no money at all coming in. And that's the reason why we're here. That's the reason why Mixed Status Families United Group exists. And we're just going to keep fighting. I mean, I can't say much else because everybody else has kind of covered everything that's happening right now. And I just want to let everybody know we're going to continue fighting. We have protests coming up, and we're going to keep standing up until we get results and we get the help that we need.
Cristina, can you actually make an announcement about the rally that you have planned in Dallas this Saturday?
Absolutely. We are having a protest at Senator Ted Cruz's office in North Dallas. I don't know the address right offhand because I'd have to look at it. But it is from 11 Central Daylight Time to 1 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So we need as many people as we can to be there. It is on a Saturday, I understand. But I do have kids, and a lot of other people have kids too. But we're going to try to get out as many media out there as we can, and we're going to put signs. And before they come to work on Monday again, when they walk through their doors, they're going to know who Mixed Status Families United is.
Wow, thank you so much, Cristina.
Thank
For
you.
everybody out there in Dallas, please go to Christina's event and show the importance of getting mixed status families these stimulus checks. So please go, and we'll share this information that Cristina just mentioned.
So I don't see any more hands raised here, but I do want to give some love to the folks that are joining us from Facebook Live. Thank you so much for getting on. We've got 24 people, and I know that most of those people are from the Mixed Status Families United group. So we've got comments from Jessica Lisette. This is so sad. This is my story, but you know, by millions, because there's millions of people being punished for who they married. We've got Caesar Arsaga. Thank you guys for your hard work and the support to people who were left out of the stimulus check. Jessica Price Hernandez, good morning, everyone. Talia Salas, our children are starving. And I wanna talk about that because it reminds me of what Jesse said. There's families that might be eligible to request food stamps right now, but they're not requesting food stamps because they're afraid it's going to put their loved one's immigration petition in danger. So yes, this is the consequence of this discrimination, that families are facing hunger right now and children. Carla Vilches, shout out to Cristina and Anastasia. Veronica Flores is also on the line. Thank you so much to everybody for joining us. I'm gonna just take a quick look here. And I think we're going to, let me just check one more thing. I just wanna thank everybody for coming together and helping us make this event happen today. It's so important to get these stories out. It's so important to make sure that you all know that your voice is being heard beyond this election, right? And that this is going to be an issue that's going to be a priority for all of us, not just not just the fact that families have not received stimulus checks, but also the incredible burdens and obstacles that are being placed for your families to be able to stay together. So thank you so much to everyone, and we will continue working. If you're in Texas, don't forget to go to that to the rally that Mixed Status Families United is planning, and we will be in touch with all of you soon. Just one quick announcement. I don't know if anybody else is still on, but we're going to do together with Mixed Status Families United a different Twitter storm every day targeting a different senator. It's really important that we keep the heat on and keep on letting people know what is going on and pressuring the senators that have still not signed on to the Rubio bill. So we will be in touch with everybody about that. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time, for your stories, and we will be in this together soon.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for having all of us.
Bye-bye.